Hi everyone, this is Veroosh. Welcome to my channel. The question is, why are you tired in 2021? Why do you feel exhausted? And let's talk about the astrology of why that might be. I've talked about this before, but I've never dedicated a video to it. Today's video is going to be short. It's a mini all sign reading, but I will go through every single sign to tell you what's going on. Okay, so first of all, I'm filming this during the eclipse, right before the eclipse, when the moon is already in Gemini in June, but this video is valid for the rest of the year in case you want to come back and reflect on what's going on. This week, Mars is debilitated in Cancer. Now, this is only relevant to June, but the debilitation doesn't last long. However, coming up on the eclipse, a lot of people are wondering why they are tired. It's because Mars is debilitated in Cancer in opposition to Pluto and on a sextile to Lilith and Algol. Right there, it might be a little bit over the top energy. You might be feeling under extra pressure at this time, and that could be leading to fatigue. Mars debilitated can express itself as fatigue, and especially if you have placements in the beginning stages of Leo and of Cancer, that can happen. Okay, so that's the main one for June, but there's other transits like the opposition that might be making you feel tired during the eclipse or before the eclipse. It's very important that you take care of yourself coming up to the eclipse, and that's why I'm making this video, because I want you guys to have a good eclipse and also a good year. The other aspect that I've talked about before, but I haven't dedicated a video to yet, is Uranus and Saturn, okay? And so Uranus and Saturn are forming a series of squares, harsh energies, that's the red line there, in which they form squares, 90 degrees angle, as they turn retrograde. So both Saturn and Uranus are outer planets or further out planets, and their retrograde cycles are 3.5 months for Saturn and 5 months for Uranus. And so these long retrograde cycles will produce moments in which these two planets form these squares. Now this happens 3 times this year, one in January, one in this time of year in the mid-year, and once again in the fall. I'll do more on this later about the timing, but if you're feeling tired, you might want to figure out whether this square is exact. Now, this current square that we're under is already happening as Saturn has turned retrograde, and this will last in the tightest aspect, the most specific aspect, until the first week of July, but actually the entire summer will be affected by this, because in a wider orb, like 2 or 3 degrees, this aspect will continue until August. So it's something that's with us. Better get used to it, and I'm here to tell you how to deal with it a little bit. I'm also putting in the description a sign by sign playlist. So I have playlists dedicated to every single sign of the zodiac, and in it I have explanations on what Uranus and Taurus mean, for example, that I did before. There's a bunch of videos there dedicated to your sign, so you might want to check those out. The reason that this square is so difficult is because Saturn is the planet of tradition. It rules the sign of Aquarius, so it's in rulership, very powerful here, wanting to change order, especially to do with ideas and concepts. So we're constantly being confronted with changing the way that we think, and yet having reverence to tradition. So tradition is very important with Saturn. So established traditions, I think that for everybody, their cultural heritage is very important right now. There's just this real embracing of the where we come from and what that means. And Uranus is the other ruler of Aquarius, the modern ruler as it's called, and it's in Taurus, which is a fixed sign. So Uranus is actually weaker in this position because Uranus is the planet of change and transformation. And so in Taurus, it's fighting the energy of Taurus that wants to maintain consistency, but it's still very, very powerful. So in short, the square between Saturn and Uranus is difficult on us and makes us tired, in part because we're constantly being confronted between the past and embracing the past and embracing the future. Now, the way through the problem, in short, is really about it's really about knowing when to embrace the opportunities of the future and looking forward to what's coming, while still at different times embracing the past. So there's no formula for this. In certain situations in your life, you're meant to embrace tradition, family, and history, while at other times you're meant to make changes in your life and embrace new things. And that will cycle again and again over 2021. And frankly, that's pretty exhausting, trying to figure out which one is best at any given particular time. And they in themselves are forming this kind of oppositional energy. But it's great. It's a good energy, and I hope that it teaches you a lot, and it's teaching me a lot. I hope it gives you new opportunities in life and new directions. And it's definitely doing that for me. And I hope it helps you to get in touch with your history. I hope it helps you get in touch with your culture and where you come from and gain more meaning for what life is all about for you. Okay? So why don't we go through every single sign and go into a detail about what it means for your sign. This is going to be very to the point, so I hope that it helps. So for Tauruses, and this is for Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus, Mars, right? For Tauruses, you guys are experiencing this in your first house. Uranus in the first house is bringing a lot of change and transformation into your chart, while Uranus is, Saturn, in your 10th house is pushing for a continuation of who you are in the world and the outcome of that. So your reputation, what you have worked towards, all those things are maintained while Saturn is in the 10th house and established further. So in some situations, you need a personality change. You need to change something about yourself to find success. While at other times, it's really about embracing the community, the people the traditional ways of being. And there's no one perfect answer. And so you may be feeling tired because you need change. You're changing while the people and the circumstances that are around you may be consistent. The people and the circumstances may be traditional while you might be pulled towards new things. And so that will be a conflict of interest for you this year, leading to exhaustion at times. Let's see the next message. So let's see. So I feel as though this 9 of Swords came up. I really felt that when I was talking about your 10th house. For many of you Tauruses, not all, you may feel as though you're letting people down, frankly. And that's exhausting. New things are beginning for you, and you're letting down people, and you don't want to let these people down. So I think that maybe that's where you're feeling a bit tired. Okay, so that's Taurus, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Now, all major aspects are relevant here. Let's talk about Aries a little bit. So Aries, Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus, Mars. So your square is happening between the 2nd house and the 11th house. You need new beginnings financially, Uranus in the 2nd house, while you have established friends and allies that you need to honor and you will find strength with. So you can't turn your back on who you know, all the wonderful people you know, all the good situations, while at the same time, new opportunities, financial opportunities will change your life for the better. And let me tell you, with Pluto right here at the end of your 10th house, you better be open to these new opportunities. If you don't embrace them, they will go by and you will miss those chances. Let's see a card for you guys. So we have the Moon. I think that this is, again, a very similar message to Taurus, because it just happens, I'm doing these at random, but it just happens to be that you're in the social houses here. But I feel like you feel regret and you feel a conflict of interest about going out on your own for Uranus, while still honoring, you know, people that you care about and people that are important to you, which is the Moon. It's like you feeling like you're betraying people, maybe. I'm not saying you are, I just feel like you're struggling with feelings of betrayal towards people you care about while you're trying to embrace these new directions. Okay, so it's a little bit of both. Remember, it's not one or the other, it's both are right. And then we have Aquarius. Okay, I think I got most messages about being tired from Aquarius, so let's take a look at this together. Well, that makes sense. Saturn is retrograde in Aquarius, so you guys just have gone through its first iteration into Aquarius since December, and before a retrograde pattern. When Saturn goes retrograde, it's especially in the first house, it's like a break. So Saturn in the first house is extremely critical. Since December, you would have probably heard a lot of critical feedback, a lot of people just saying like incredibly intense things to you, not necessarily of a negative nature, but it's still a lot to hear. As Saturn has gone retrograde, you have finally a breath of fresh air to embrace, and you can sort of, you have less criticism around you from your environment. And so that's a break, but that in itself is exhausting. I've gone through this transit when Saturn was in Scorpio. It went through my first house, and boy, oh boy, did I hear it. I was here on YouTube, and so I heard all that feedback, you know, in the comments and so forth. But it makes you a better person. So it's kind of like, you know, it's like with love, and it's good information to grow from. Needless to say, Saturn retrograde is really good at this time because you get a break. The way that Uranus is contributing to it is that people around you, especially in your family, might be changing the pace on you a lot. So they may be focusing on different things, and they may be like changing up the dynamics of your family, where, you know, like the family structure, they might be bringing new ideas in or new ways of doing things, and maybe some of that is your doing as well. And so you're dealing with not only trying to embrace new ways of approaching your family. It doesn't mean just like your husband or your partner. It could mean like a bigger family, like your parents and cousins and so forth as well. So you might be embracing new aspects of your family and then trying to, you know, introduce that into the family ecosystem and so forth. So the square between Uranus and Saturn can really feel as though a conflict of interest. In one hand, you know what's best for growth and expansion, or maybe people around you are initiating that, as I said. And then on the other hand, everything you do, even if it's not challenging, is being criticized for the next couple years, for the next year, don't worry. But it's good. Like Saturn in the first house, I want to stress to you, is a very good transit, but it can be like over the top and intense. So yeah, it's a conflict of interest between, you know, knowing that certain things need to change, better ways of doing things are available, while at the same time, you know, you're being criticized. Okay, so your card is the Four of Pentacles. The first inclination that I had was there was some change in your family that you were not receptive to. That might be also a hurdle for some of you that you're going through, and so you need to honor it right now. Look at this Three of Swords on the bottom. So it's, if somebody's changing something on you, Aquarius, in your family, it may not be necessarily an attack on you. And that's not a message for all of you, but I do want to honor that the energy is present. So it might be a message for some of you to remember. Just because someone, you know, is moving out, or like kids moving out or so forth, it's not necessarily on you, you know, and you might be feeling sensitive from the Saturn in the first house. Saturn is in rulership in Aquarius, so you're the one who gets the most criticism. I've seen all the content on social media, like everybody's digging in. So just know that that transit is happening, taking it with a grain of salt, and don't shut down and stop listening, because it's actually a helpful transit that you should take on and build from, you know. So I wish you guys all the best with that. I'll be back with more videos later. Okay, so then we have Leo. Hi, Leo. I'll do your members video right after this. I was actually going to do that, and then I had like 300 questions. Well, maybe not 300, but I had a lot of questions about this. So I was like, sure, I'll do a video. Okay, so, and I'm not sick. It's just my funny voice right now. So we have Uranus in the 10th house. So for you, it's an expansion of opportunities in your career, in your public life. You have an opportunity to connect with people who you normally don't. And then Saturn in your 7th house. Some of you might have partners that are literally holding you back, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either. You might be feeling as though the people that you really care about, you're really, you know, day ones, ride and die type people, they're here in the 7th house, and that they're not being as progressive as you need them to be. But remember the initial comments I made, that sometimes it's actually better for you to embrace tradition, and sometimes it'll be better for you to embrace change. So what's making you tired is a constant negotiation between your public life and your partners, the people who are closest to you. And you know, those, I suspect that the majority of you who are feeling tired because of personal relationships coming into these conflicts. So that's why I'm here, just to remind you and make it better. So 5 of Swords, yeah. So where you see opportunities, sometimes someone around you might not be as encouraging of it. You know, you want to go a different direction, and not everyone gets it. And then sometimes you really want to hold on to a certain level of partnership, but there's something in your outside world that's pulling you away from that. And so conflicts of interest between yourself. You have I would say that this is one of the hardest aspects. If you have Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising, I would say this is probably one of the most challenging ones, because anything to do with the 7th house and people we care about is difficult, right? So I can sense if you're feeling tired, hold on tight, and you'll get through this. And I really want to stress that all the transits are good. This is a good transit, but it's just sometimes overwhelming. Okay. So Capricorns, hey Capricorn, your members only video is coming up, but in the meantime, let me show you some stuff about this square. Okay, so we're starting off with Saturn in the 2nd house, which is a big push on you financially. It corrects whatever you're doing wrong, but also sometimes has the property of limiting how much money you have. So you might be working extra to get something, to get more money in. So Saturn in the 2nd house is intense. Fortunately for you, it's gone retrograde, which means that, you know, the Saturn in the 2nd house can yield a situation in which it's harder to make money. When it goes retrograde, there's a little bit of a break for those months. So it's time to catch up in that energy. And Uranus is in your 5th house. So fun opportunities. Hey, let's go there. Maybe your kids are pressuring you to go to Disneyland now that it's opening. There's a lot of energies that might be around that might sound enticing and exciting that you simply can't afford. And then sometimes on the other hand, you want to pursue something, and so in some way, sometimes it's better with this pursuit of new opportunities, pursuit of the new path, while this is standing in the way money. And sometimes you'll really be distracted maybe by outside forces. The 5th house is also romance. While you're really focusing on building a good foundation with Saturn in the 2nd house, and not really that much interested in, you know, wasting money on frivolous things. So that can be exhausting. Money can be exhausting and really, you know, keep us down. Let's have a look at your card. We have the Nine of Swords. So especially this hits home for me if you're talking about kids. I can only picture them wanting to go somewhere on a trip, and you have a conflict of interest of letting people you care about down. I also feel as though like weariness with money. Just I know how much money is important to Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising. And so with the second house Saturn, know that it's the transit. So if it's harder to make money right now, it'll only last for a short time longer. And when it's finished, you'll be in a better position financially. So be patient. Don't get overwhelmed. It's just temporary. Okay? All right. So let's see the next sign. So we're going to look at Libra next. Hi, Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Okay. So Libra, for you, the Uranus is in the 8th house. So this is huge for change. Just a lot of intense change coming your way. Uranus in the 8th house is very much about really embraces the ending. This stark, there's not, after something ends, it's gone. It's like it's gone for good. And so there's this real push for innovation in your life as you completely release the past, as you completely release everything that was there before. Now Saturn is in your 4th house, in your 5th house, sorry. And so the tradition is with your family, your children, the familiar things you do for fun. Those things bring you lift and empowerment and strength. But sometimes it's going to be time to let those go as well. Like some hobbies need to be let go so that new things can come in. And sometimes you're going to need to embrace the old. You need to embrace the things that are familiar rather than pushing ahead, because if you push ahead, there may be no going back. So you're constantly negotiating change and transformation in your life at this time, Libra, and some things that are really a part of who you are. The 5th house is a huge part of who we are. So some of these things sometimes need to be let go at this time, and sometimes they need to be kept close. And sometimes this 8th house transit will produce for you wonderful possibilities. That's the majority of the transit. But sometimes it's better for you to focus on who is close, what is near, the people that you know you have fun with, the things that you enjoy since childhood doing. Maintaining those things is more important than kind of transforming everything. Okay, so let's see your message. 9 of Pentacles, money. So for some reason, this has money pressures. I mean, Uranus and Taurus is notoriously linked to things like the stock market. We talked about this in the Taurus, Uranus and Taurus series by sign. You can check it out in the playlist down below. I did that a couple years ago. But 9 of Pentacles, it is really about change. Like sometimes you need a break from the past so you can really go into the future and make more money and become more independent. And sometimes it's really about embracing what you know and not changing everything up so you have to spend a bunch of money on new equipment or new things. So money is your future, Libra, and I feel like you're going in a good direction, but you're going to be constantly picking and choosing between the familiar and letting go of everything familiar to embrace a new future, a new possibility. Okay, so next sign is Sagittarius. Hi, Sag. Okay, so let's see what's going on for you guys and this transit. Okay, so for Sagittarians, Saturn is in your 3rd house of foundation. So there's aspects of your life that you really need to embrace. And this is a lot to do with formative years. When you're 3 to 8 years old, your personality forms, and it kind of stays with most of us for the rest of our lives. And so as Saturn is in this position, it encourages embracing who you truly are from the get-go, and it kind of takes away all the other things you've took on in your life that are not essential to you or not essentially a part of you. Well, Uranus is in the 6th house and is giving you tons of opportunities, tons of just new things. Sixth house has to do with your day-to-day tasks. And so from day to day, you are getting new ways of just how you approach your day, new things that should fit into your daily schedule, daily routines. And so sometimes through these transits, through this square this year, will be an opportunity for you to try new things and make your life more lively, more diversified and more interesting, while sometimes it's going to be time for you to rest within yourself and embrace who you are and who you've always been. So sometimes it's going to be one, sometimes it's going to be the other. I think for you, sometimes you'll have opportunities to do both, and that's going to feel really good, because then you'll feel the balance between the two. But if you're getting tired, there may be things in your environment that are pushing you to change, or maybe you're holding on to something from the past that you need to let go of. Okay, so let's see the next, holding on to the past, Four of Pentacles. So there might be things that sometimes it's going to be important for you to change, and sometimes it's going to be important for you to hold on to what's familiar. Because sometimes when you bring a lot of new things in, you have to get used to them. And if they're happening all the time around you in the sixth house, daily activity, then maybe that will get overwhelming. So sometimes it's actually better to hold on to yourself and what's familiar, and sometimes it's going to be better for you to embrace change and let go of the crusty ways that don't work. Okay, so good for you, Sagittarius. I think that you'll have a good time. And then we have Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Your membership reading is coming up. I did this instead of the membership reading because I had so many questions. So I hope you guys don't mind, but everything's coming. Everything's fine. So your Uranus transit is in the 12th house. I love this transit for you. This is like the transit of divine inspiration, where you get ideas about, doing different things with your life, approaching problems from new ways, and almost like ideas come through in dreams for you at this time. Now, not everything here materializes yet. I'm really excited to see what happens for you when Uranus moves into Gemini in 2025, 2026. So when this transit begins, it's going to be really exciting. But all of this is sort of brewing in the back of your head, and you're constantly getting wonderful new ideas. Now, Saturn in the 9th house is telling you that in some way your outside world and how you position yourself in terms of your thoughts and ideas needs to be celebrated. So tradition, especially an emphasis on tradition, family, culture, those kinds of things are super huge for people with transits in Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising. So there's this conflict of interest between embracing these ideas that are new and sometimes completely formulated in the subconscious and connected with the past, like past lives and things. So you have this wild subconscious imagination thing going on, while at the same time there's a big emphasis on tradition and consistency in your ideas, and you are very drawn towards history and tradition at this time. And so so sometimes tradition is the answer, and sometimes these new ideas are the answer. And so it might make you tired trying to figure out which one is what. Okay, so here is a card for you guys. We have the Two of Cups. Now, I have Two of Cups twice in this deck. This is the reversal, which is a friendship card. I call this my friendship card. And so true friendship with what's familiar, right? The Saturn in the Aquarius, true friendship with what's familiar. But then there's the possibility of new friendship when you embrace new ideas. The message I have for you, Gemini, is that you don't have to rush. I have a feeling that you're rushing a lot right now to get through this, to figure out which is what, which could be leading you to feeling tired. So, just it'll work out in the end. You don't have to make a decision yet, and you can just appreciate both. And you have a very good sign. Yeah, Gemini mutable air is probably the best for being tolerant of both and being okay to change. You're not a fixed sign and you're an air sign, so your ability to appreciate the past while still embracing the future I think this transit is probably I think you're probably the sign with like the best transit. Although you might still get tired too. The next sign is Virgo. Okay. Well, I know Virgo is like opposite of Gemini. So if you're a Gemini still watching, you want to stick around for this. So Virgos, you have the opposite. So you have embraced new cultures, embraced new ideas, Uranus in the 9th house, and Saturn's in your 6th house of routine. So Virgo is overwhelmed with routine right now, intense frequency, a lot of hard work. You're probably extremely busy. There's a lot of things that you have to be very detail-oriented about with this transit of Saturn in Aquarius, while Uranus is giving you possibilities in new directions. So Virgos, for you, the difficulty is having a very busy schedule while still at the same time being presented with opportunities in new directions. So you need to figure out when is a good time to embrace your schedule and do what is already set out for you to do, and how do you bring in these new things, because you don't want to miss these opportunities. Okay, so let's see the next message for Virgo. You got the sun, babe. So we have the sun, happiness, joy. I really feel like the 9th house is a beautiful transit for you. Thankfully, Saturn will be out of the 6th house before Uranus finishes this transit. And when Saturn leaves Aquarius, I think in 2022, then early 2022, then you'll really feel this impact, and it's going to hit you pretty hard, like in a positive way. You're going to have your kind of like your energy levels are going to skyrocket, and you're going to have the pace is going to pick up a lot for you then. So it's not bad until then, but Saturn is probably going to be slowing it down somewhat, especially this year. At the end of this year, it will be better. So be patient with that. And yeah, definitely opportunities. I think Uranus in the 9th house is so exciting for Virgo. It's just the eye-opening experience. So make sure to be open to that, because it brings a lot of joy and happiness into your life. Okay. So next sign is Pisces. Hi, Pisces. I think I need to do your members only content also. It's coming up. So for you, Pisces, this square is happening between the 12th house, Saturn. It's actually like a deep, profound connection to tradition and things that you may not even be familiar with. I think that you require a lot of downtime to process the downloads that you're receiving, the insight that you're getting about life, while Uranus is in the 3rd house. And this is crazy. You'll like this energy because you're a water mutable sign, so you can really adapt and change. But Uranus in the 3rd house is actually changing your foundation. It's changing who you are at the base level. It's giving you new opportunities. I don't know if you watched the whole video, but I was talking about the formative years, and you know who we are is decided upon or is established between the time when we're 3 to 8, and so this is changing. You have the opportunity to change aspects of that. And so, yeah, so on the one hand, you need time alone, Pisces, to think about the past and to connect with tradition, to gain insight about the present. While at this other time, there's a fundamental personality change that you're going through that is revisiting who you are at the core, like child level stuff, and rethinking it through. So it's a powerful change, but I think you like it, because Pisces typically like change. So hopefully this will be like very spiritual. Saturn in the 12th house for me is very spiritual, very peaceful, very kind of connected to deeper truths and so forth. So I hope you enjoy it. And then we have the Ace of Swords. You're defining yourself in new ways. I think, what did I say? Gemini, this was going to be the best transit for. I think you're probably... I like this for you as much as I like it for Gemini. So if I were to list which signs are experiencing the best transit of this, I think that Pisces and Gemini so far, and you're like second to last sign I'm looking at today. So it looks as though you're redefining Ace of Swords, a new definition of who you are, which is Uranus. But then at sometimes you're really reflecting on the past and integrating that in your life as well. So it's just a very powerful moment in your life. And I hope you enjoy the next 2 years while Saturn is in Aquarius. I think it's beautiful. Okay, so let's see the next sign. We have Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Hi, Cancer. I think your guys' members only videos are coming up too. So let's take a look at this square and why you might be feeling tired. You know, change, fundamental. Saturn in the 8th house is intense, you know. It quells our libido, so we might feel more apathetic towards intimacy, more specific about what we want, and more things are a turnoff. And Uranus is in the 11th house of friendship, so you might be exposed to a lot of new friendships, a lot of new people, a lot of new exciting people introducing you to new things. And so you might be trying to figure out like what needs to be sort of nurtured and embrace, how do you say, what needs to be, 8th house is change, so what needs to be nurtured to embrace change in a soft way as possible, like in a very thoughtful way, Saturn in Aquarius. So you're contemplating change in your life at this time, what doesn't fit, what's not a part of who you are, like fundamental transformations, but in a very gentle way. While at the same time, you're being presented with wonderful new people to get to know and to familiarize yourself with. And with Uranus, in the 11th house, it's been my experience that people tend to experience, like, meet really unique people through this transit. They tend to meet very people they have never had the chance to meet before. So pretty exciting transit for you, Cancer. We have the Two of Wands, eye-opening experience. The reason it's tiresome is in some ways you want to be by yourself and focus on change by yourself, while at other times you're exhilarated by possibilities and the people that you meet and everything that they bring towards you. So yeah, it's just like, do you step aside and figure out what you need to really transform, and when do you need to embrace these new friends and wonderful new possibilities? So that could be tiresome, trying to figure out whether you're an introvert or extrovert. That's kind of the energy. Last but not least is Scorpio. Hi, Scorpio. Let's take a look at your astrology to figure out exactly what may be making you tired for this eclipse. This eclipse isn't so, well, it's the 8th house eclipse, so a big change, a big push towards especially sharing with others in energy. Breakthrough moments are possible. But let's talk about Uranus and Saturn and why some of you might be feeling tired through this. Your partners might be pushing towards new ways with you, so they may be encouraging you towards challenging you to live a different life. Okay, partners, business partners, romantic partners, and so forth. They might be introducing to you new ways of living, and that's a part of the partnership, or new dynamics within your partnership and so forth. While Saturn is in your 4th house, in which Saturn in the 4th house, people often move with this transit. They often move home. And especially when Jupiter returns back into Aquarius, that's going to happen in September, I think. And so as Jupiter enters back into Aquarius for the rest of the year, that will be a time in which changes of home are very possible, like where you set down roots might be a huge part of things. And Saturn in the 4th house might make you feel very focused on home and family at this time. And so the conflict of interest is this very outgoing energy by your partners, who we spend the most amount of time with, our partners, right, tend to have a huge influence on our outer life. So what I feel for you with Uranus in the 7th house is that people around you are pushing you to kind of come out of your your Scorpio cave a little bit, to try new things, to try new ways of being, which is great sometimes. But Saturn is going to require for you to focus on home, to go into the cave and to figure out, you know, what is your lair like? Like, what do you need your home to be like, and where do you need it to be? And so that might come into conflict between wanting to spend time with people who you care about, your partners, while at the same time really needing to address home and family issues. Okay, so let's see your card, Scorpio. We have the Two of Pentacles. So, and it could be also financial, like you don't have money for everything. So you need to decide what you're going to spend money on. A little bit outgoing energy, that's what I feel like this would be. And this would be like turning into the home and focusing on that. And that could be tiresome, you know, trying to kind of blend both. And Saturn and Uranus are competing energies. One wants change, one wants tradition. And so therefore you might be finding yourself trying to decide which is best at any given time. Okay, guys, so thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this mini reading. I hope it clarifies things for you. I zoomed right in for this one. So I'll be back with more. As you guys know, I'm kind of going slow at this time of year, but I'll be back with more, lots of content. And members, your stuff is in the members only playlist, as well as by your sign in the description. Thanks, guys. Bye. Have a nice day.